Beautiful sunset. Welcome to the Zombie Zook. So this is just a small walk around the Zombie Zook. I know it's quite a lot of people's requesting that. I'm gonna try and cover as many things as I remember here, and in extras I'll just list in the description below. But for now, let's start with the the biggest modification on this vehicle is the engine. So this is a Suzuki G series engine. This is actually a G13 I, so it comes out of a Suzuki Vitara 1.68 valve motor. It is virtually identical to the 1.3. The mounts almost mount up correctly. I think this one did, the other one I had to modify with a spacer bracket. And the motor is physically, the stroke is longer, and I think it's got about a 1 or 2 millimeter bigger bore. So it's fitted with a chimney radiator just because it was a brand new one and it almost fit right into the spots of the old one. It is slightly bigger. It is connected with an electrical fan. This is a high powered unit, and this thermos switch is inside the water pipe. Just welded a bung in there. So the main reason for electric fan was the clearance. As you could see, there's not many clearance there at all. And also another thing is the car now heats up in the mornings a lot quicker because the fan doesn't spin unnecessarily. So the biggest modification to this motor is obviously, as you can see, the aircon pump, as I call it. The SC12 Aisin Supercharger from a Toyota 4AG-ZE. So this Supercharger is meant for an engine of a capacity of 1.6 litre. It powers this little guy. I did have to rebuild the engine just beforehand I put it in. So the motor is pretty much brand new, built up from the floor up. It's got forged rods in it, brand new pistons. It was bored about 1 or 2 millimeters bigger, and I was just made to ensure that the whole setup's going to work reliably and didn't have any issues with that. So then after that, obviously I slapped on the Supercharger and then I had to make the intake. So the intake was quite an interesting job. Obviously that was a bit of a DIY setup. I wanted to try and do everything as far as possible on this car myself, and the first intake worked alright, but it wasn't the best design. Then we came up with this one. The biggest problem with the Suzuki engines are these water pipes that come out of the intake. This posed quite a big of a challenge to actually reticulate the water out of this. So basically they meet up there with the T-junction, and then it's also a remote thermostat that runs the whole water system. And the pipe comes up here. So basically, how do you supercharge a motor, specifically the Suzuki ones? Well, with a lot of patience and a lot of work. Eventually it runs pretty good now. Main key features of this is the supercharger, the intake system, a carburetor that can flow. So this is a draw through system. You've got a high flow Weber 40 DCOE side draft on here. And also we've got one of the key features, also a bypass valve. This is from a Mini Cooper. Basically all this does is when you're not on full throttle, then this thing will still spin at quite a high rate, and it'll pump in air in the intake system, which you're not going to need, the air fuel mixture. This gets passed through back into the intake side of the supercharger, so that just recirculates the whole time. And then only once you pick up a zero vacuum in this part of the carburetor, then this will close up and you'll have full boost on you. Currently I'm running about, it maxes out at 0.6 bar, which is almost 10 psi. I find it perfect for this engine. It is a 8.8 to 1 compression, not very low, but low enough so you can safely boost it. Power wise, mid-range torque is amazing in this engine. Top end obviously isn't as much as you want to compared to a turbo engine, but for my driving style I really love this engine setup. Why didn't I go EFI? Mainly because we don't have any 1.6 16 valve motors floating around South Africa, so it was quite difficult to find those. And secondly, I didn't want to EFI this because the setup is currently reliable. If something does go wrong, I will know what that is, and it'll be easy to fix, and the Vitara parts are almost everywhere here. So I thought I'd just go with the setup. The only main drawbacks of this system is currently it's difficult to control the timing, so the startup is not for everyone because obviously it's a carburetor, so you have to pump it a bit in the cold mornings. But after that it's pretty good, it's fine actually. That's basically the motor setup. So then we've got the bonnet lever. This is actually a working one. You can actually see the holes there. I did grind out the bonnet in these spots, seal that off, and when this car crawls on a trail, there's a lot of heat that comes out of here, so this is a very efficient system. I would like to incorporate this on one of the next builds, and it looks very neat, if I must say so myself. Then we've got these custom-made zombie brackets for the floodlights, and just some zombie spikes, obviously, because Zombie Zook. 27 watt trail lights. These swivel out if we go dining at night, or pretty much anywhere that we want some light. That's pretty cool. So this is a once-off design that Buddy and I did. It has seen some action, so you'll see the paint is rubbed off. But what I quite like about this design, it's a three-piece design. So we've got the middle section, and then the two sides on both ends, and then the middle, or I call it the skeleton or the backbone, are these thick plates that run to the chassis. Also mounted the chassis with 3 bolts, reinforced and sleeved mountings there. That was approximately 18 kilograms in total with this setup, so it's relatively light. Then we've got a 10 kilogram, 6,500 pound T-Max winch with a synthetic rope. I've had to use that twice, not nearly as often as I thought. Then we've got the 120 watt LED bar with a flood pattern, works great. 27 watt LEDs in there. We've got some custom eagle eye LEDs just here. I took it out, it suits the look, the whole zombie look on the car. And then the headlights have some LED retrofitted ones in there. Good thing would actually be to swap those out with those Jeep headlights, the new ones. Those are pretty cool though. I've got those in the Landy. Grille was painted black. And then we've got the emergency zombie lights. Mike's going to turn those on for us. Yeah. Wheels, right. 31-inch General Grabber tires. These are on 7J Pro white rims. I'm not sure on the offset. I think it's about a -5. It's not much at all, but I've got some 32mm or 38mm spacers on there, wheel spacers. And there's just got some red looking lug nuts on there. Suspension wise, so this is pretty much a custom suspension setup. It was a 2-inch, but I put in spacers with the additional weight of the bumper, so it's pretty much sitting now at a 3-inch total in the front. Got extended brake lines here. I've got a 2-inch body lift to clear the wheels, because this car, the wheels quite a lot of travel here, so it hits the mud guards here now and again. And I didn't want to really cut up the whole bodywork, because I wanted to keep the car relatively standard. Rock sliders have seen some action, some paint off here, but it wasn't for that, then the body probably I would have suffered. These were flush with the body, but after the body lift they sit at that position, but they're actually at the correct height when you want to get in and out, so it works perfect. So I've got long travel shocks in here with new shock brackets. I made it like 2 years ago or something. Those are just some long travel shocks off one of the big 4x4s. Coils are also customs. Then the exhaust system on this thing, it is literally one box underneath there, and I used to have a little small box here at the back, but due to the exhaust gases coming into the cab if you run it straight back, I had to turn it sideways. And this is, I think it's off a Toyota 86 or GT86. Just got it from a friend, so I put it up. Looks decent. And then we've got some recovery points here at the back. Those that we made both sides, clamps to the chassis, and then also just some DIY eagle eye LED backing lights, flickers, and also brake lights all in one. And I'm running no spare wheel actually, because I haven't needed a spare wheel in a very long time. There was once where I broke off a valve, a tire valve in the dunes. I hit a stump. But luckily I had Mike, so I borrowed one of his tires. But I had a spare one of these, so I could have replaced them. The spare wheel's at home, and then there's usually a flag pole that comes up here. It's just a light to set up. I like to keep the car light as possible. That's the reason why I didn't replace the rear bumper, because this is more than good enough. Then at the back we've got in the axle auto locker. That has been slightly tuned, so it's not as aggressive. It works excellent. And if someone would ask if I would go air locker or auto locker in this car ever again, every time I would go auto locker, just because every time you're on an obstacle or you forget about switching it on, it's always there. The only downside is when you drive competitions, you're immediately in another class, the locker class, and you can't turn as sharply as with an open diff. But for my purpose, I really like this setup. It's open diff at the front, locker at the back, and then we've got some flexi suspension on it. The transfer case is re-geared. That's a 4:1:6 gear ratio, and with the coilies 3.9 diffs, it makes for a total reduction of I think about 90%. Pretty good in the dunes, very good on trails. It is not built for a rock crawler, so obviously you would want to go low with bigger wheels there, but then you need bigger axles on the whole thing. Currently stock axle shafts. I've been driving this setup for 2 years now. I've done a lot of trails and dune driving, and not every time I drive as nice as I should, and it's been holding up surprisingly well. But I do take in mind the extra power that I have. I don't just drop the clutch and go for it. I don't hoon too much. So yeah, it's all about driving style at the end of the day. It does have a bit of a strong clutch in it, the aftermarket one. It doesn't slip, so it's pretty good. Interior wise, we've got a center console here, just some switches, Arduino, voltage, and then for the future that was programmed for water temperature, oil temperature. And we've got some interior lights switched by the rocker lights here, and also some map lights. These are actually pretty cool at night, so you can read maps. We've got a few night challenges that these work excellent on. And I used to have some radios in your PA system, and interior wise, pretty much standard as I like it. It was just some few buttons here for the light bar. These are the trail lights, and then the emergency lights right here. And one of the best mods is a bath plug in the floor, and the interior is rubberized, so after a dirty muddy trail, literally just rinse off the interior and just take everything through there. That is amazing. That is pretty much the Zombie Zook, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Zombie Zook out.
Oh,